wake up first thing with that sense of tension. And while it comes and goes through the day, it feels really real, and it feels not where I want to be. So that's really all I've got to say about it. I don't see that there's much to do about it. It fascinates me that there's so much insecure thinking going on. And in one way, I'm clearly taking it quite seriously somehow, but in another way, I don't. You just trust the system and think.
Yeah.
Just kind of hang on in there.
Yeah. Well, I thank you, and well, I hope maybe tonight's process might be helpful in that, because hi Mary.
Hi Kim, how are you? Hi Karen, hi Sarah.
Hi.
Because, you know, if we think about the like what I always talk about, you know, on my workshops and retreats, is as the two kind of fundamental truths in this understanding. So number one, that our, you know, it's all inside out, but number two, that as well as the gift of thought, we have these other two priceless gifts of universal consciousness and universal mind. And as human beings, you know, we all have innate well-being, we're all connected, we have this resilience, this clarity, this wisdom, this peace of mind as the core factory setting. So what I've been seeing more and more lately is, and I may have said this to some of you individually, that the first one, which it seems to me is what most people in the principles community talk about, which is thought. The first one is, I mean, it's super helpful, and it's for me, it's not until you really get the second one that life really transforms. You know, it's because if you only have the thought thing, yes, it's inside out, yes, I know it's my thinking, you know, it's kind of, as you were saying, Karen, or as you sort of hinted at, there's almost another layer of expectation and should and frustration with yourself that you're, you know, that it's not more different than it is. So I really wanted to focus tonight on the second one, and going beyond just this idea of innate well, I say just this idea like it's a little thing, I mean it's huge, but going beyond even that, to exploring who and what we really are underneath it all. So if it's all right with you, would you mute yourselves just for a little while? And I'm going to bring you all back on again shortly, but just to keep the ambient noise down. So this is a process that's it's kind of, I've cobbled it together from different kind of sources, I guess. So it's not original to me, but it's it comes from a mixture of, I suppose, spiritual traditions, and I thought I'd just kind of try it on you and see what you think. So I often say on my workshops that, you know, that we're not our life experiences, we're not our story, we're not our personality, that we're much more than that, there's something else going on before and underneath and beyond our identity as a human being, and somehow to realize what and who we are underneath it all, it seems to me more and more that's what allows us to truly thrive as we enjoy playing full out as a human being. you know, in this kind of, this wonderful skin bag of a body, and this immensely fantastic thing called a brain, or, you know, the clever porridge that we have. It kind of allows us to really embrace and engage with and be present with that whole human life thing. So this would kind of be an invitation for you to, however, I don't know what kinds of experiences you've had in the past, or how well you've kind of gotten to know this true essence of you, this diamond, this real nature of you. And I can't guarantee that you'll have any kind of experience, because that's not in my gift, but it's certainly one of the most powerful processes I've ever done for myself. And it's done something for me that's more sustainable than either an intellectual understanding of it or a deeply profound experience of it, but that tends to just be a glimpse and then it's gone. So supposing that somebody came up to you that you were coaching or you were working with, or just a friend, and said, look, I really want to wake up. I really want to wake up to who and what I truly am. Because this life I'm living as this separate egoic identity, it's kind of good, but it's, you know, I just get a sense that there's more on offer. And there are periods of happiness and peace and joy and all of that good stuff, but they don't always last. So they kind of come to you and ask you to help, you know, to help, to say, is that possible? So that's what I'm going to kind of do with you. So this process is about an invitation, and I just invite you to come along. So come along. But before you enter, please remove your shoes and leave them outside the door. And you go, okay, yeah, so I'll remove my shoes. And I say, okay, one more thing. Can you leave your mind at the door as well? And you go, well, now there's the rub. That's the catch. How can I leave my mind outside? That's my problem, you see. I can't put it down. And I say, don't worry. All I mean by putting your mind down is that we're not going to talk about your mind. We're not going to talk about anything from the past or anything from the future or any idea you have about yourself or anything about who you think you are or who you'd like to be in the future. And those thoughts may well come up, but I'm asking you to simply not engage with them. If you want to, you can pick all that up again at the end. So just for the duration of this process, we're going to leave everything about your story and put it aside. And I'm not going to ask you to imagine anything either or to visualize anything. I'm just going to ask you to the extent that you can, to become empty. And to be here, but to kind of not expect anything. So are you up for that? You can nod. Okay. So I just want you to be totally empty. You're not engaging with any memories, any thoughts, any feelings, any imagination, any concepts. And I don't want you to create anything either. You can't fail at this, don't worry. You don't have to strain. Just be here now, just as you are. Empty, empty, empty. And see if you can let go of any identity, or even any attachment to an identity. That feeling of I, even that. See if you can let that go. And even the body, let go of the body. Don't cling to anything. Empty, empty, empty. And to the extent that you've been able to do that, notice you're still here, aren't you? You're still here. So I want to ask you a series of questions. And I'd love you to put your volume back on again now, because they're kind of yes or no questions. And it would be lovely if you would just answer honestly from this place of emptiness. Just answer the questions for yourself. Okay, it's not a test, it's a genuine kind of, from that emptiness, looking and seeing what the answer is. Okay. Just put your full attention on what is here now. And whatever this is, you can, it's a kind of a feeling of, well, just isness. Like a vast, formless something. Intelligence, maybe. So if you could just say your answers out loud, and don't worry about, you can't get them wrong really. So just say what you see. Just be honest. So this isness, does it have a shape?
No.
No shape. Does it have a size?
No.
Does it have any colours?
Blobby.
Does it have a gender? Is it male or female?
No gender.
Mm-mm.
Is it an object? Can it be sick?
No.
Can it be jealous? Can it be scared? This isness. Can it be hurt?
What did you say, Kim?
Hurt.
No.
Can it become depressed? No. Can it be controlled or owned or manipulated by any person or organisation?
No.
Does it have a star sign? Does it have any moods? No. Does it get tired or exhausted?
No.
Does it need food or drink?
No.
Is it still there when you're asleep?
Mhm.
If you travelled to another country, could you leave it behind?
No.
No. Was it born?
No.
Is there anywhere that it is not? Any place?
No.
No. Do you have to be careful or worry that you might lose it?
No.
Can it die?
No.
And how far away is it from you right now? Like, in terms of distance?
Just everywhere, so it's here and everywhere.
So no distance away. So let me try and understand what you've been telling me. You're saying it's not an object, has no size, no shape, no colour, has no moods. It doesn't become hungry or tired because it's not a body. It doesn't need anything to exist. There is no place in the universe where it cannot be. It cannot die, and it's no distance from you. In fact, it's inseparable from you. That's you. That's the real you. So really cool, isn't it? Really cool. So what I'm going to be asking each of you in a minute to kind of just talk about any experience you might have had during that. But you know, if we think about human beings, who is it that's having this, as many people do, this life of struggle, this, you know, who's experiencing stress, who's having difficult relationships if they are, who's angry, who's scared, who's insecure. And somehow this isness, this pure consciousness, has the capacity to create a very, 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 very limited self-portrait of itself as a separate person, as a separate identity, this skin bag with the clever porridge. And it's a great adventure. But I think I finally started to see what people mean when they talk about, you know, the self of the Buddha, the Christ consciousness. And I don't mean that in any religious sense, but the living and imperishable truth inside the heart of every single living being. It remains untouched. And that's why great mystics through the ages have told us that our human life is just a dream. Our true self is pure consciousness, connected, infinite, timeless, powerful, and completely free. Discuss. So I'd just be really curious to hear from each of you what happened, to what extent you were able to empty yourself or not. Yeah, what was that like?
I liked it. I could feel myself quietening down, Kim. Um, because there's no doubt the more I really liked it as an activity, as a process, whatever you want to call it, because it brought my attention to bear fully in the now. And I have to admit, I did wander off. I was still conscious of that sense of, at the beginning when you started, my stomach's still churning.
Yeah.
That sense of anxiety. And it fascinates me that I can be so full of insecure thinking, and down to something as simple as she's going to ask me to do something.
Yeah.
There's going to be an expectation. I have to have an answer. I mean, it's the weirdest thing. But as you took us through the exercise, it's really helpful, because there isn't a question that you ask that, to me, doesn't feel exactly the way it is. I don't. We must be so much a part of our conditioning that it is, at least it feels that sometimes really difficult to shake off.
Yeah. Thank you. How about you, Sarah, Mary?
I was crying a little bit because it felt so powerful. And it was really interesting because when you asked us to imagine that, I guess there was still kind of an image going on in my mind. I wasn't putting it there, but there was some kind of imagery going on. But when you started to ask the question, that's when I really wanted it. That's when I really realised, actually, it doesn't have a form, it doesn't have a colour, it doesn't have a shape. And it was the questions that allowed me to really feel that sense of just being energy, being everywhere and not visible and not anything, just being part of something. And I think what really happened to me, which was really, really lovely, was that that reconnection with my dad, who died in 2005, but that real sense of, actually, I haven't lost him. He hasn't gone. He's just changed his form a bit, but he's still everywhere. And that for me was just beautiful. So thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, I found it very relaxing. You've come out of work and rah, 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 rah going on, and then just to kind of sit down and calm. And I think it kind of, that sense of you're connecting with your soul.
Yeah.
Yes, that was the piece that kind of, and that sense of kind of that there's a serene part of you that and the questions like, can it be manipulated? Can bad things happen to it almost? Or can bad things be done to it? That sense of not kind of from a I'm so powerful place, but more there's nothing to, it's kind of be like throwing a ball at a pillow. There's nothing to, to kind of manipulate. There's nothing to, I don't mean it's that I'm above it. It's kind of like it's not even a question,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting.
I found it fascinating when I first did it, just my certainty about all the answers. There was no, having to kind of really try and, it was just like, no, yes, and it wasn't, those answers, I think very clearly seemed to me weren't coming from intellect at all. It was just a kind of a knowing. Yeah, so well, let me ask you all, if you're I'm going to keep you muted just because of the noise, but when you come on, I'll unmute you. But how do you think, or do you think, how do you think we could because what I don't want to do is to make this into a spiritual practice that you've got to do every day. But what do you think, is it helpful to remind yourself of who and what you really are, and what occurs to you about doing that? Because I know one thing, if you were to really empty, be present, come into the moment, have those feelings of serenity and knowing, boy, you would cope with your day better.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think this.
I suppose the thing is to give it a go, Kim. Because I know what you mean about you should kind of know this, and well, not you should know this, but you know what I mean. I do feel that like you, I didn't have to think about any of the questions that you asked me. They seemed obvious. So would it be helpful to just be reminded of those, to develop our remembering, to develop a practice, a spiritual practice, as you say? Well, what would be wrong in trying it? Because I think all of us understand deeply enough that it wouldn't be because we're doing that we feel better, but you and I have talked about this before. It's just your wisdom sometimes comes up with an idea that's helpful.
Yeah, exactly.
With a thing to do, like when you're agitated, go for a walk or leave your desk, or you know what I mean. You call that a spiritual practice, but it's not. It's just your wisdom saying, "Take a break, kid."
Yeah.
I think it's I suppose what I notice for myself when I get agitated is if I consciously remind myself to slow down, almost a bit like the Jamie Smart thing, breathe, that kind of thing he does. Oh, breathe, to his people he's coaching. I find that puts me back into that more. A friend of mine actually, and we work together a lot in that kind of whole conflict coaching area, but she has a lovely saying that she learned. She does a lot of Enneagram work, but she says, are you coming from an in and down place, or are you coming from an up and out place? And I suppose that always resonates with me, because the way when you're up and out, you're moving and shaking and you're buzzing and the whole world is in your head and you're either on top of it or you're stressed by it, but in some way or other it's like you're out there controlling it all, kind of trying to call all the shots in your life. And when you're in that in and down place, it's, it's like stuff is just, it's more coming from that soul place, and you're more in the flow of life and kind of, so I suppose I do try and consciously say to myself, a little bit like that idea,
Yeah.
So can you see, because I think, when I get stuck in my thinking and blah, 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 I find if I just even take a step back and, empathize or whatever and kind of just see it for what it is. I suppose that's all along those lines, really, isn't it, of a practice or whatever. And I suppose the way that idea, I think what's lovely about this exercise, is, and of course this is totally on 3P, it's not another tool, but it's another thought that can occur to me now the next time would be, there's one of Kim's questions, what would I be? How would I be in this situation if I remembered my true nature, so.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, great. And it seems to me there's a kind of it's funny, I'm going to be speaking at the conference in Prague again in May, the second conference in Prague, and I was on a call with a number of the other speakers, and because my plan at the moment is I want to do something like we did on this call, but kind of more so. But I want that to be the work. I'm going to be running several workshops there, and I wanted. So I'm going to do this with people, and one of the other presenters he asked me an interesting question. He said, "Are you talking about how to create a better, more highly functioning person, identity, I guess, or are you talking about going beyond that, so beyond the person, beyond the identity, beyond the self, actually?" And but it seems to me that we can do, wherever we are and wherever we want to be, and whatever's kind of our own wisdom suggests to us in the moment, that this kind of thing does both. It can, or not the exercise, but the realizations that come from the exercise can, almost as a minimum. So at least you're going to navigate your day better. But again, it seems to me there's so much more on offer than that, which is to truly, truly wake up to the fact that it is all an illusion. Those seem to me to be two different things. Now, I'm not saying one is right and one is wrong, but they're both kind of, they're both potential destinations along that path. Yeah.
And I guess you can't guarantee how deeply your workshop participants are going to.
No. Especially as most of them are probably going to be Czech speakers. So I'll have to check because my Czech is terrible.
That's it. How's your Czech?
How good their English is. But no, there is no guarantee. It's always interesting to me how how the same questions or the same metaphors or the same teaching stories or the same anything can impact 10 different people completely differently, or in some cases not at all. And I guess that's a function of, you know, level of consciousness or how awake they are already or something like that. Yeah.
I think what's nice about the exercise, the activity, Kim, is it has the opportunity of settling people down.
Mm.
You know, in a way, because of the simplicity of it. And of course, when people are more settled, they're more balanced and they're more likely to, who is it? Dickens talks about falling into your thinking.
Yeah. How about you, Sarah, with your clients? Because one of the things I've been chatting with Mary recently about, not about this specifically, but Mary is, sorry if you don't know, Sarah works with people with eating disorders, and so does Mary. And Mary, you're going to be working together, which is great news. But something like the very idea of letting go of your personal story would scare the crap out of some people. I just wondered what your experience was.
Well, do you know, I think it will scare the crap out of people, and it does, because we've learned what we are, who we are. And it was interesting that you had the question of, well, what are you trying to do with this, or what's the purpose of this? Why do you need to have a purpose? Because it just is. But I think, you know, speaking personally and speaking probably for a lot of the people that we work with, so much of our anxiety, and especially in eating disorders, is fixed to our form and our appearance and our perception and others' perceptions of us. And so actually, if we can not to let go of some of that, then instantly the anxieties and the fears and they go as well, because there isn't that same attachment with it. So if we can, and for me that was a real experience of feeling myself as energy rather than as a form. And I don't think I've ever done that before. It was incredible. And I think to experience that and not to have to experience all of our thinking around our form and our appearance and just is incredibly freeing. I think it's powerful beyond words, really.
If they can let themselves go there, you know, I suppose it's how much resistance there is to that. But yeah, I agree with you. Potentially, it's huge.
And you know what? I'm not sure, Kim, that certainly me, I didn't know I was going there. I just kind of followed your lead and went there. So I guess there's something about putting down the barriers and trusting, but beyond that, it's not about knowing where you're going. I didn't have a clue. I just was there. And being there isn't scary, because I wasn't me, I wasn't my body, I wasn't my thinking, I was just there. And so if you can get past the barrier of following those instructions and actually experience it, I truly, you know, with all the meditation and mindfulness and whatever, never felt anything like that. Never.
Do you think you would get people, Kim, I don't know how long you've been doing this, who I can't imagine, like Sarah, not just completely giving into that process as you were delivering it. Do you think there's folk that come through it and just go, I've no idea what you're talking about?
Probably. And so much of it's about context, isn't it? And you know, like I always used to say in Brain Friendly Learning, it's about what you do just before you do this. You know, that thing in any kind of training or facilitation, it's like, where, you know, using your phrase, Mary, or your colleague's phrase, you know, are people, to what extent are people in and down or up and out, like just before you start? I think we all go up and down on a kind of receptive, you know, some kind of receptiveness graph. But you're right, Sarah, a lot of it is to do with the trust in you, the therapist. Yeah. And
I was thinking how that compares to, you know, the simple question that often gets asked, which is, you know, if you are not your thinking, who are you? And that speaks beautifully to, I think, your point about the setup for this.
yeah.
That, you know, if you just lob that question at people, as I have done,
Yeah.
they're not even in that place. So it's like, it is, you know, what you get back is, hey.
Yeah. Do what? I came across some research today about, I haven't explored it fully yet, but there's this thing called the Neotics, Institute of Neotic Sciences. Anyway, they were doing this thing of asking people, who are you, in pairs, 12 times. So, you know, who are you, Karen? Well, I'm a wife, you know, or people would talk about their role, or my name's Bob, or whatever. And then they would say, no, who are you? And then people would come up with different, anyway, what they found was that the people who seemed to be able to go to this kind of place after 12 of the same question, and then they correlated that to all sorts of things about happiness, well-being, and even longevity in form, and found it was, you know, all much better. Whereas people who, you know, who are you? Well, I'm Bob. No, who are you? I'm Bob. For Christ's sake, I'm Bob.
Who's Bob?
Yeah, they had the, you know, just less of all that good stuff. Very interesting. That makes sense to me. But, yeah.
Yeah, there's a huge piece in this of settling down, isn't there?
Yes.
Settling down. And probably, you know, I don't know what else was happening for those people who, even after 12 times, they didn't kind of get into that place, because there is that place there for them, but maybe they just, that wasn't what took them there. That question wasn't what took them there.
No. Well, that's why I quite like these questions, because they're like, because they're very specific somehow. They kind of guide you along rather than just expecting you to kind of explain the ineffable and the mysterious yourself. You know, it's kind of, I don't know, I just think it's more helpful.
No, the simplicity of it, but the guidedness of it is incredibly effective.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being my guinea pigs.
Thank you for
Guinea
your
pigs.
love.
Oh, no, it's, I really appreciate it. And it's lovely to see you all. And, hey, I know what I was going to ask you. Does it, with future Zoom calls, I've had some feedback that for many people, 7 o'clock is too early. Of course, you can never please all the people all the time. But if I occasionally was to make them 8 o'clock, would that be too late for you guys?
Okay.
I'd be okay. Okay.
Yeah, I would be okay. I kind of like 7 because it's not as late as 8 actually.
Yeah. Well, I do personally, but there are people who can just kind of never come because they're always in that, you know, still traveling home from work or whatever.
It's just worth a go, isn't it, Kim? Just to see if you.
Yeah, well, I think the thing to do is to vary them, isn't it, and see what works.
Yeah.
Good.
Sorry, wouldn't put me off.
All right.
All right, guys. Lovely to see y'all.
Lovely to see you all.
Lovely to see all of you too.
And enjoy hanging out with your true self.
You can send me the questions so that I can ask myself them, and I'll have a wee practice and see if you want to do a further experiment, Kim.
Oh, okay. Yeah, happy to do that.
Yeah, it might be an idea. Maybe we could do it at the moment. I leave this call more restful and at home in my space than I arrived on it. So thank you.
Excellent. Great to see you all. All right.
All right. Bye, guys.